perfect fatherhood, perfect husbandry, perfect marriages. Let's just move for a perfect existence in our lives here today. Yea, though we walk in the valley of the shadow of and the alleys of Babylon, you know, that doesn't mean that we have to submit to them. There's nothing wrong with us doing our own thing. Remember this, family, a revolution is not bloody. It's not like the armed struggle. What it is a return to a start point. And that's where we are as a people. We need to return to a start point. Specifically, this documentary, this broadcast, this podcast is designed for us to like pay homage and get back to our roots and get back to our beginnings, because I am the father of civilization. I am Father Nature. I am the king of the every include being father. So basically, this webcast is designed to debunk the myth of the absentee Black father. And what better way to do that than to have a very omnipresent father on the show with me tonight. So I want to thank you and welcome you, Baba Rio, for working with me. Yeah. Yes, please, my brother.
Man, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much. I'm elated to talk about this particular topic. It's always good to build with you. You know what I'm saying, my brethren, just, you know, evolving over time as men, as fathers. It's been an amazing journey, man. So this is just another key marker to that evolution, you know?
Absolutely, brethren. Ditto, ditto, ditto. I second that emotion. I second that sentiment. All right, so I'm going to get right into it. As brothers and sisters, this guest that I have on today, this is, you know, we've heard about the superwoman, you know, the super Black woman, and yes, and we look to take no credit from her. We're just trying to get on that same pedals and that same throne with her. This brother that I have on the line today, he's a father of two for now. This brother has just recently finished his PhD in instruction and curriculum. This brother parents his son, one son at home, and fathers another daughter that lives in Florida. I've watched him traipse across the country. I particularly remember this past Christmas where I think, if I remember correctly, the brother took his son down to Miami, hung out with his daughter a little bit, then ended up taking the son on to Puerto Rico, got some spiritual work in with some friends, played some music, dropped his son off with mom in Puerto Rico, and then made his way back to the States. You know what I'm saying? Hollered at his daughter again, and then back home, all during his break from school. The brother is also a due diligent teacher in the Ferguson Florissant School District. He's a musician. But even more, before all of that, this guy is one of the perennial omnipresent fathers in our hood. So I want to give this brother a round of applause, and I want to thank you for being on the show. And so now I want to get into some insights about you, Brother Rio. The first question that I sent you that I want you to answer for us is, brother, take me back to your emotional state and your mind state, you know, as you became a father, especially with your daughter, you know, but with your son as well. But, you know, talk to us about your emotional state and the mind state that went into you becoming a father.
My mind state in terms of just becoming a parent was always from the standpoint of love, right? It's so important that children are born out of love, because whatever you pass on in terms of the creation of that child can end up in that child. You know what I'm saying? So in both instances, I was with women that I truly loved and wanted to really express that to me, that ultimate sense and concept of love, which is giving birth to a child, you know, because that child is the expression of your love. So that was my emotional state going into having kids. And, you know, to a certain degree, without thinking about how, the bottom lines of everything and trying to prepare, like there's only so much you can prepare for something like that. It's really more of just opening yourself up to that experience, knowing what you know about yourself, knowing what you know about what you can do. And, you know, ironically, when we think about parenting, really it's a reciprocal relationship, right? Between what we are as parents and to our children, because our children are here just as much to teach us as much as we are to teach them, right? We're here to socialize them. We're here to wrap them up in our culture And oftentimes, you know, it's not just our culture. Sometimes it's um, some of the negative parts, you know, the misgivings, the insecurities, those things we pass on, you know, sometimes unknowingly to our children as well. But for those people that I believe are already on the path of consciousness, parenting is just an elevation of that consciousness, because only like when you know what it's like to basically create life, right, out of a meditation, you know what I'm saying? Then you know exactly what it's, you know, it's just a specific experience and feeling. And when you see that manifest, you know, that child is a reflection of everything that you see in life, and especially yourself. So it's all about, how do you treat your child? You know, you have to shower your child with love, but that love has to come not from a space and an ego, but it has to come from a really agape style love, in terms of allowing your child to grow into what they're supposed to be, not what you want them to be. You know what I'm saying?
Ashe, you said so much in there.
Yeah.
I wanted to like moonwalk back a little bit about, you know, those original motivations, and I'm thankful for you, you know, giving me the real fruit I was looking for in that answer, because I'm working on a piece right now, family. I have an upcoming treatise I'm working on, one of the most important books that I'm going to be releasing. It's going to be called Sacred Arousal. And within this book, I'm talking about the precursor thoughts. As you know, conception is the origin of or creation. So having a clear expressed as, you know, a child coming from the absolute and supreme and unconditional love you have for a woman, and belief in her and her belief in you, you're right. That's the essence of what makes child bearing so personally fruitful, because as you also eloquently stated, you move from just being a participant in life to becoming a creator.
Yes.
And when you willfully create a child with your seed, that's called procreation. And we need more of that. I end this by saying it's a very dangerous thing for a man or woman to want to be involved in one's sexual gratification, but absolutely don't want a child to come from that. When you're in your childbearing years, when you can produce children, speaking specifically of our women here, but even with men as well, when you get involved with the beautiful act of love making or procreating, you've got to bring honor to that situation. This must be a sacred upliftment of our spirit, because we live in a society where they're arousing us in the most negative and obscene ways, and it's led to a lot of negative, deviant behavior. So, man, thank you for that fulfilling answer. So the next thing I want to talk with you about is your super fatherism. Like, one thing I admire about you, my brother, is that, like my mother and like my father, you spent your young adult years not only raising your children, but getting your education, your higher education as well, so as to advance mobily. So give a young brother out there some tips and clues on how you're able to manage getting John by the soccer practice, swimming, managing his situation, battling with his asthma, as well as get you all the way up to a PhD, because do you have 2 master's degrees, my brother? You know, talk to me a little bit about that journey.
All right, cool. So education has always been a stamp of my family's values and principles. So whether it's like institutional education, or whether it's education through experience and entrepreneurship, that's always been like a hallmark of what my family passes on to each other. So I always saw, and I was always taught, that education is the route towards achieving success or achieving stability in life. Now, obviously, things have changed, and there's a lot of different ways you can interpret that. But in that process, I realized that I was good at school, and I also saw, in terms of my profession, how it actually benefited me to continue to gain education. And so it just kind of all fit together in terms of, you know, my own personal inclinations and how I was rewarded for them. I look at those as opportunities, because oftentimes as a parent, it's hard to kind of understand where a child is coming from, especially if you've been out of school for so long. So if you're not in an educational setting, you know, there are some barriers to you connecting with your child and really helping your child along that way. But if you understand intimately how this system works, then you can also create so many different opportunities to where your child can be educated, because education is 360 degrees, right? It doesn't just happen in one four-cornered space or in one particular trip. It's an amalgamation of our experiences and how to apply those experiences that deems our education to be verified, right? So as a result of that, can y'all still hear me? Uh-oh. Can y'all hear me? Got disconnected.
You still.
Okay.
All right. So I pray thee that you know that your video is working, because like I said,
yeah, it is. Definitely. It's on right now. You know what I'm saying? So what was the last thing you heard me say?
Yeah. I heard you talked about family. It's the principle and the value of your family. You talked about the necessity of education, be it through the traditional the system or through learning through entrepreneurship and everything like that. And then from there went to Gurgle.
Okay. How's the connection? We good?
Yeah, but I'm actually gonna mute mine so maybe it'll.
Okay. So give me a wave or something like that. That way you know you can hear me. Yeah. All right, cool. So with that being said, the more that you can apply your own experience and connect with your kids in that way. So basically my son was 4 or 5 years old when I started my PhD program, and obviously 8, you know, when we finished. And the only way I was able to complete that or to accomplish that was based upon the fact that I live in a village, right? My parents helped me raise my son. So as long as we generation, that's really what it is. So my son is, you know, he's of my creation, but my mother and my father, they each play integral roles in terms of raising it. So oftentimes when I would have to be off either at a class or some type of function having to do with the program, between what I did with my parents would use those as opportunities to teach them, you know, play soccer with them, to teach them French, and really give, you know, the old school immigrant way, you know, the Haitian way of doing things. So it kind of, what's the beauty about that is that it really helps to apply that concept really of an African model of how family is. You know, it's like this idea of, you know, kids being 18 and being grown is just erroneous. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make no sense. So right now I'm in a situation to where between living with my parents and us raising my son in the village, and even the relationship I have with his mother, to the point to where we fight to make sure that we communicate, and then we are doing it in the spirit of love for our child. We're doing it for the spirit of peace and civility between us, that we make sure that communication is above board, right? Y'all still good? No. I might start talking to the camera like this. That way you can get a better angle, maybe. Maybe I can move it over here. Yeah. All right, stop this video. Hey, Mom, is the Wi-Fi good? Hey, Mom. No. We're fine. We back. We back, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
Back.
Yes, indeed. Let's just like us. Let me say it once and say it again. Extreme genius is always met with extreme opposition. For me.
Oh,
yeah. This is so important. What we're talking about, where they just can't let it get through.
Man,
so look, like I said, we got no. I'm praying for our insight that you're reporting, on your side of the end. So I'm going to move to the next question.
hold on one second. Hold on one second. Let me get this. Mic stand up.
Your office digs in there, fella.
Thank you, brother. Got to stay reading, man. Got to stay literate, brother. Books for life, man. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So much so I'm thinking about taking a little fast from social media, man, and just like really being on the level of like, hey man, I just need to read books or take time meditating, in silence for like 30 minutes, maybe up to an hour, because really generating that internal blaze, because now information is fast food. You know what I'm saying? And like, we really got to take time to eat good mental meals too,
Absolutely. And that's something to be said too about the tactile component book, turning the page, adjusting the light, sitting there. I have romantic in my head. I was telling you, it's kind of weird sometimes. The strangest things that you find, when you get your arousal matrix properly aligned, you find yourself in a situation where certain things rush you. Like, I love to see her sitting there, reading a book, just kind of flipping the pages, kind of laughing, to herself and all that. Little things like, just checking, just noticing how when we're reading from our journals, and we might be hear someone read a good journal or a good piece of poetry to you, this generates excitement inside of you. And last but not least, when you're reading a story, specifically a novel, there's something to be said about using words to capture the mind and pull you in versus imagery. You know, remember the Chinese proverb says picture is worth 3,000 words. You see? So the act of like getting words, using words to create imagery, that's actually more in line to you using your picturing and your imagery, as opposed to if you're using a television, you're using someone else's image of things. And that's one of the ways that I think to program us in negative behavior. Okay, so the next question I wanted to ask you, I want to ask you one more question. Your balancing act that you're doing. So I know that, you know, you are a loving, kind, you know, brother man, and I know that you have aspirations of finding a queen. So the question is, how do you balance the act of dating or courting with, you know, child rearing, and what type of things are you looking for in a woman, and the characteristics, and what type of you know, standard must the queen, you know, be coming from, along the line of accepting you as a father and you accepting her as a possible mate and co-carer and co-carer of your child.
Okay, so so dating has definitely been tough, because, you know, what I'm realizing is that being such a juggler, at times it's hard to prioritize relationships that are more, I guess, personal in nature versus purpose driven, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, and really, I feel like they should be the same. But just the nature of relationships, you got to learn how to, you know, how to talk to people and just how to take your time with it. So I think that's what I'm doing right now. More than anything, I'm taking time to apply myself to the standard at which I desire. Right. So the standard of which I desire is broken down, I believe, into the 5 F's. All right.
Okay.
She's got to be fit, right?
Right.
I don't mean just like a banging body or whatever. I mean mentally fit. She has to be emotionally fit. Psychologically, she has to be of a certain adaptive nature and fitness in terms of being able to be in a relationship, right? So, you know, so it's all, again, that balance, right? She's got to be fine, right? And when I mean fine, I don't just mean like fine wine, you know, all of that other stuff. What I really mean is refined, right? After her own experience, after everything that she's done or that I've done in life, that I've come to understand that there are lessons behind mistakes made, and there's wisdom to be had without making mistakes. And in the process of that, at what time would bring you to quick anger? Now you've learned how to, you know, I guess open up and communicate better, so that you can, you know, address those issues that you might have as an individual without, you know, without it being so frustrating or conflicting. So that's fine instead of refine. She got to be fertile, right? Oh, what does that mean? What do I mean by that? Do I just mean, yeah, you know, she got to be, you know, have them childbearing hips ready to go? Of course not. What I'm saying is, does she have a mindset in terms of that same adaptive mindset? Does she have a mindset to where seeds that I plant in terms of ideas, knowledge, and communication, to those ideas? Is her mind fertile in terms of receiving the seeds of purpose, of drive, that, you know, that a man can give to a woman? And more importantly, the same principle applies. Is a man open, and is he fertile in his ability to actually receive the reflection that a woman gives you, right? Are you ready to receive the reality and the real that a woman gives you? Are you fertile in that way, so that you can actually both come together, go forth to create ideas, right? So is she fertile? Financially fit. Okay. That's a little bit more direct, but you know, it is what it means, which is, does she have behaviors and natures that build toward wealth, right? Because if you're trying to build a family, again, in my opinion, trying to build, you know, something greater than yourself, then you have to have a wealth plan, a wealth building plan. Of course, health is wealth, right? So when we talk about it, Yeah, y'all still with me? Y'all still with me? I keep going in. I'm gonna finish it anyway. So, financially fit, right? So, does she have a nature that works towards building a family, right? And so again, in terms of that, is your drive money, or is your drive living life? Is it a lifestyle drive? Because those choices that you make are very different. Um, if you're working and you're living to make money, then money becomes a drive, and money becomes your God, and it leads you down a path of dissension, really, because money, is only the fuel that we give to the life that we live. So, is she more oriented in her finances towards living life based upon values that are what I like to think permaculture, right? That are sustaining not only this life but the life after. I think we should all work toward that. So I said, she fit, she fine, she's fertile, financially fit. Oh yeah, and foreign. Here's what I mean. Here's what I mean by foreign. All right, I don't mean like, oh shit, these black women out here. You know what I mean? I need to get me a sister from the islands, a sister from definitely. I would believe that, but what I'm saying is this: foreign is a mindset, right? 21st century, people are moving in much more divided ways in terms of stronger nationalism, or stronger more towards this idea of identity. But in the process, we also understand that, man, we in a global village, right? So that means that a woman who's foreign has really not. It's not that she has to be from somewhere else, but she has to think globally, right? So like when you speak another language, she's like, oh, I don't want you speaking that voodoo language around me, Blah, 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 blah. Like, again, I've heard that. You know what I'm saying? When I'm speaking Creole, oh, don't speak that voodoo stuff around me. You're gone. You did it. You're out of here. Like, that's my culture. You just trying to denigrate. You're done. But like a foreign language, like maybe she's not fluent, but she's just open to the idea. That's really all it requires. It's just open to the ideas of seeing yourself within the context, not just of your city, state, your town, but seeing yourself within a global context. Foreign language is a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? It's a great thing to be able to communicate in different ways, because languages have frequencies. You know what I mean? So to be able to relate to somebody in different frequencies, different languages, just adds more context and depth to a relationship. So in terms of the 5 F's, right? She got to be fit, she got to be fine, she got to be fertile, financially free, and foreign. That's what I'm looking for, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what I speak into existence. But more important for myself. Right? Yep. Because I can't expect to have anything or anyone on that level if I'm not exuding those same characteristics. So it's no way do I have an unreal expectation of someone else that I would not first apply to myself. And I think right now that's where the work is. Where's my integrity when it comes to those 5 F's?
Ashay, so look, I was feeling like I kind of put you on the spot when I asked that question, but it looks like I put a spotlight on you, and you did a handsome job of answering that question, my brother. Give thanks. Give thanks. Okay, so the next 2 questions are talking about the interplay of fatherhood. I want to know how would you characterize the impact that your father had on you, and how would you characterize the impact that you're having on your students as a teacher, as a father figure in the school system?
My father is an amazing man. He's one of my heroes, because in life he has shown me that no matter what one's mistake may be, that it's never the complete definition of a man, and that you can always rise above and rise to a situation.
Yes, indeed.
He's shown me I'll tell you a quick story. So I'm doing one of my morning walks, right? Them 5 a.m. walks, right? So on my way back, a cat I know from high school, he's riding on the scooter, and you know, we dapping each other up, you know, saying peace and whatnot. And he said, "Hey man, I just wanted to tell you something." I was like, "Okay." He said, "I remember back in the '80s, I used to see your dad carrying you on his shoulders, and y'all walking up to the park right up here." And he said, "Man, I just want to let you know, like I saw that as a kid, and it showed me what type of father that I wanted to be to my kids." And so I'm just like, man, you know, he's talking about my father. And that's kind of how it was growing up. You know, a lot of young brothers I was in school with, I was one of the few, not just had that had a father. There were brothers that had fathers. But my dad went with us on the 6th grade trip to Huntsville, Alabama, the little space camp. My dad went with us. He was our chaperone. And it was all brothers in one area. And there was all like, man, I wish I had a dad. Man, I wish, like, you know what I'm saying? And I was just like, you know, at the time I was like, I see this dude every day. What's the big deal, you know? But definitely now, man, especially in this particular landscape, man, you know, he's shown me so much. And again, he continues to show me. He's a beacon of direction and progress in terms of understanding, you know, the expanse of life. You know, he's in his early 70s, and you know that doesn't stop him from his drive and his purpose. He works as a lab tech at a VA hospital, but he feels like he's part of something. You know what I mean? And as a result, so he's like, I'm not going to retire. I'll retire when I'm done, but I'm not done yet. And I was like, I love that fire and that drive. And he uses that in order to, and his skill set to go back to Haiti on medical missions with the particular group that he's with. They set up a blood and urine analysis lab, and they dedicated it to his name in Haiti. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, my dad's making markers and having his name on plaques in Haiti now. You know, he's not waiting until you know, he rested dead, and the only place his name is on his tombstone. He's put his name elsewhere. I'm like, good luck. I need to get on top of mine, then, right? So yeah, that when I think about my dad, I think about those things. You know, I think about his faults. I think about mistakes he's made, and then it helps me to accept my own mistakes and my own imperfections in terms of being a father, because it's not about perfection. It's not about, you know, being this upstanding. Oh, you know, that's that father figure over there. You know, it's just about being real, being authentic with yourself, being a conscious parent every single day. Because parent is, again, it's just one role in that reciprocal relationship, and also, you know, to see how that plays out and how the type of relationships that you create now. Because, you know, I used to think, you know, sexy was or drama was sexy. You know, so I would choose women. You know, this is before I had kids. I would choose women or be with a woman because that drama was, you know, I thought it was exciting for some reason. But when you have kids, you're just like, yo, like, that's toxic. That's disgusting. Like, I don't want nothing, no parts of that. But in order to alleviate that, you got to change yourself. And, you know, and for some, it takes longer, you know, and it's an ongoing process. Whew. Y'all still hear me, man? Yes? No? Y'all still hear me, man? Give me a thumbs up or something.
Can you hear me now, Roots?
Yep.
Okay. So I was just saying that we have to work, not confuse our trauma with our drama.
Yes.
Whereas trauma is a life-threatening situation that changes your scope sometimes from the worst. for the better, but for the most part, trauma can lead to insecurities and feeling like, like people that suffer traumas like, natural disasters, rape, violence, extreme violence, people hardly recover from these things without proper help. Now, drama, on the other hand, is a different thing. Drama is the and downs, the unexpected, they watch shows because of basically trauma is what creates the toxicity, and drama is what creates the suspense of it makes it exciting and challenging. Right now, through the special situation that Mama D and I are going through, improving our health, and notice I said our health. I'm not just put this on her. Our health is at stake here. So I basically came up with the idea that the suspense is healing me. You've heard people say the suspense is killing me, but I say the suspense is healing me. And I think that that's what's happening to us as a people. Suspense of trying to get yourself properly mated. The suspense of being a family-focused brother. The suspense of being a financially responsible person in the midst of all the luxurious absorbers in the society. These are all temptations and all things that lead to a very suspenseful life. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, man, I really thank you for that story about your father too. That's just, I can hardly get my thoughts together from reveling on it, man. That's just so pure and real. So finish me off now and talk about, I'm sure you noticed as a teacher, because I did, that there is a father hunger in our community, as well as I think there's a place for being a father figure in the school system. So I want you to get into that a little bit more on some of the insights and things that you've learned about being a father and also a teacher at the same time. For the record, while you pause, you can stop your recording that you're doing right now so that it won't be like one long one. It can be a series one. So you can stop that thing now and then.
I'm just assembling my words, man. Mm-hmm. So what I realized was that my teaching style is based upon relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So because in order to establish relevancy, right, you have to be relevant in order to relate to the most up and coming generations, right, that come into you. And so there's a common thread, right, that flows through us as human beings. And becoming a father only brought that out more, because what I found was that, as a teacher and as a professional, I've seen many a time, people relegate, or dispense their personality in terms of their teaching, but kids end up failing, especially children of color, is because we can't relate to that very static, stoic type of relationship, when our kids come from spaces that are very informal, that that look at government systems more as hindrances than help. And so somebody like myself to actually be in one of those systems, be like, hey, look, take a break, put your bag down, we're gonna talk about some stuff, but before y'all leave here, I want to make sure that we all on the same page about life, right? Because mm-hmm. One time, one class, saying you can make it mean whatever you want, but I'm in your life for the next 187 days. So how are we going to spend it? How are you going to spend it? Are you going to let something like grades get in the way of this knowledge, of this wisdom, of this experience? Or is it going to be something else? But as a father in that role, I listen to them and I relate to them as my kids, right? That's right. there's nothing I wouldn't do to or say to them that I wouldn't tell my own child. Because what you want for them is to prosper and succeed. So you're not going to cater and kowtow to them, but you're going to relate to them in a way to where you know not everybody's going to get the same thing out of one particular person. But it's about, you know, how do you dispense that? So you're not interested in history. Fine. I don't really care. But how can we get past this hoop? Because let's not, you know, my thing right now is, you know, let's learn something, especially learn something about yourself. And I'm going to teach you how to, more importantly, not just the content, but I'm going to teach you how to think for yourself. I'm going to press and I'm going to push you to actually read something, to listen to something, to write down your ideas, to talk to other people about your ideas, and present your ideas, and then defend your ideas. Because bottom line, if you cannot make a mark in this world, if you do not know what your ideas are, how to organize those ideas, and how to defend those ideas, because especially as people of color, we're being attacked and we don't even know it. We at war and we don't even know it. So, you know, a lot of times if you lack the discipline, kids are going to play around. And, you know, before, man, it used to get on my back. It used to stress me out. I said, you are making your ancestors embarrassed right now. And they're like, what are you talking about? Right? You know, taking myself so seriously. This is the knowledge, you know, and it's like, okay, you know, but, you know, you got to relate to us too. And I was just like, you right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm value judging over here. And clearly it only makes sense if it relates to them. Now, I've had a lot of missteps, a lot of disappointments. Man, I was teaching the Harlem Renaissance, man. We sitting down, we were listening to Robert Johnson, right? So I'm like, y'all don't understand. Robert Johnson is the foundation of blues. It wasn't no blues, you know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be jazz, it wouldn't be rock, there wouldn't be rock, there wouldn't be hip, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is evolution, and it came from us. And this one young man said, man, I don't give a shit about this. Yelling it just like that, you know, to my face. He don't have nothing to do with me, man. My entire spirit deflated. Not necessarily because of what he said, but because I wasn't being effective at reaching him. And really, I couldn't. You know what I'm saying? I just, and so for that day, you know what I'm saying? Like, every day is a battle. So for that day, you know what? I packed it up early. I was just like, you know what? Bump this, you know. I just, you know, I lost today. I'll take that in, you know. But you know, in the forward for every one of those young brothers, I have school children, right? Children that I keep in contact with after they graduate. We go out and we eat lunch or whatever, because we, on the flip side, have such a deep and real connection that we seek out that relationship even beyond school, because we understand fundamentally that I have their best interests are, and that's something, that's a resource for them. You know, that's somewhere that they can get love from. You know.
You know, I wanted to back up just a second to the student. I wanted to point out to you that although he's, you know, got up and screamed an untruth out,
right?
The fact of the matter is, you actually did get to him. That's what made him get up and scream out like that, is that you did get to him. Because I would bet a pint of my blood right now, and that brother who was trying to make a disconnection between his ancestors and especially in music, because I know music plays a part of his life. I bet that he might even be cell right now, thinking to himself, man, that brother was trying to connect me to my ancestors and my culture back when I was a young man, before making these mistakes. Because that's not a false, that's a false premise that your ancestors have nothing to do with you. That's part of becoming a mental slave. So I just wanted to, you know, right at that critical point right there, to let you know that within the ancient Kemetic system, one of the virtues is to stand firm in the face of persecution. Remember, just because someone raises their voice and screams out doesn't mean that they're right.
Right.
you know, this country that we live in, that simple principle gets overlooked because we even have a Mandarin thief in place right now who uses his voice. He's a non-diplomatic person most of the time. So that child is just reflecting the sentiment of the society that he lives in because he's spoken untruth. And I wanted to take a moment to give you kudos for making that connection and sharing with the child that most interesting insight that's very personal and relevant to you because you're a teacher as well as a musician. Okay, so I use this to segue into the fact that part of your personality too. One of the things that I've admired about you, you know, I've known you since you got your first guitar. I remember when you were strumming on that bad boy, and we were all waiting for you to get better. I remember saying to myself, I remember the first time I saw those huge, you know, Haitian hands of yours on that neck of that guitar. Me and Tree and a couple of guys would be saying to ourselves, you know, this guy, those big hands are eventually going to get the hang of that because I mean, you put your due diligence in, King. You got it in, bro. So, talk to me a little bit about how, you know, the catharsis, the healing, which is just as well as you have in your PhD, your teaching. But every year, man, you're dropping a new album. You know, I really love the segment of your time when you were running with Global Warmth. I love seeing you play with my man Mo Eggleston.
Yeah. Oh, y'all stars, yeah.
With that too. Talk to me about what this music is doing to you and how you use it, you know, to translate, you know, to send messages and things.
Yeah. So a guy that I recently played with, we also teach together. And you know, he said, you know, Charles, man, he said, you know, you a true artist, man. And I'm like, you a true artist. And I'm just like, okay. What does that mean? You know? And I'm not really sure. I think, and he went on to explain, like, he said, like, you know, you're not doing this. He was saying that you're not doing this for any other particular reason, but you're doing it because, you know, it comes from you, right? You're like that real deal. And I was just like, well, thank you, brother. You know, I was like, thank you very much. Yeah. So as far as music, man, it's a, like I always say, man, it's a ministry, you know. That is where I connect with the Most High Creator and receive the greatest amounts of elation, not only through the songs that I write, but, you know, through other people's songs and really connecting with crowds. Just the joy of making music. You know, I tell my partner all the time, you know, we're sound and time alchemists, right? You know, we play with string and rhythms, string vibrations and rhythms in order to suspend people in time based upon their level of enjoyment of that music that we're playing, you know, because every time we hit, it's a vibe, you know. It's not just, you know, notes, it's a sound, it's a vibe. So that you know, that mindset I take into every single thing that I do, because, you know, aside from speaking the language, music is a whole nother language, right? It's a whole nother way and frame of thinking, because I'll say, even in terms of conversation, is that because as a musician, it trains you to receive and to listen for vibes, to listen for, you know, the nonverbals in terms of how people communicate, so that you can actually sense things about people before they even open up their mouth to say anything. You know what I mean? You know,
okay.
Music, especially playing with a band, has taught me telepathy. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no other way that I've been able to communicate with another human being without speaking a word, but just through thought. Because somehow, as a collective, as a group of people, we just knew to move from this sound to that one, and there was no, yeah. So music has taught me, you know, a lot of different superhuman traits, and so that's what I try to apply. You know, that same standard of improvisation that we talk about all the time. That just, whether it's hip hop through freestyling, whether it's, you know, jazz improvisation or playing the lead riff or singing over something or, you know, soloing. That's the approach. That's that adaptability I was talking about earlier that you have to approach in life. You know, even though, you know, you got a set spread, you got a set song available to you, you know, but you know what happens when, you know, you extend the bridge, or what happens when you break it down or you turn it back up, or you know, it's just drum, you know, you do it dub-wise and it's just drum and bass.
Absolutely.
How do people, you know, how do you respond, more importantly, let alone how do you respond to other people that are in the same, you know, network as you?
Wow, my brother, I tell you what, man, of you, and I just want you to know, man, I really enjoyed this. And before we go, I wanted to give you the opportunity, if you had any questions for me, because I really dug what you said about the symbiotic relationship of everything. And you made me remember something I said I wanted to start asking the brothers as we talk about this topic. Is there any particular thing you wanted to ask me before we go, so that I might be able to, pour the other way into it? Because, brother, you've definitely poured into my my cup today, and I'm very thankful for y'all, your insights, man. Like I said, I'm still emotionally relevant about this one about your father, man, the impact, because I know that impact, man. That's what we're living for, man. Of all the things I have done, it's really the love and the things I've done with my children, and the times when I'm out there running somewhere and I run into one of my old students and they just like, you know, hit me with that old Mr. B, man. Like, I had one time a young brother, Mario, apologized to me because he was working at he was in college out in SEMO, I guess, because it's out there in Cape Girardeau, whatever college is out there. He's in college out there, and he's working at Quiznos, and I was stopping there to get my little veggie sandwich, and his name is Apology. You know, and I said, what are you apologizing for, bro? And he said, well, you know, you talked to me, you told me that I had the potential to me to be an owner, and that we're more than fast food workers, you know. And I said, well, son, you misimplied the message. Sometimes you have to crawl before you walk. I said, I am tremendously proud of you for working and going to school and taking care of yourself. And I said, man, just to run into you, man, this is the highlight of my trip, man. I was dog tired right now with this trip I'm making, but seeing you here in this position, man, I can make it home now. Yeah. I can make it. You know, I only got an hour and a half to go, and I'm gonna make it because of this, of seeing you here in school, breaking the myth, breaking the statistical anomaly, and doing your thing. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Wow, that's powerful, man.
Yeah, man. It just, you know, like I said, it blows me away every time I think about it. I made me recognize that, and I to tell you, ones that scream out, because Tyrone is a vocal brother, you know, about what he felt about things, but to see him turn that thing around and say those words to me is deep. So don't you worry about that young brother that stood up. That kid is probably a deep, profound musician somewhere right now.
You know, and that was the thing, man. He was a rapper, you know. So I was just like, bro, like, you could listen to Robert Johnson, man, and you know, but especially reflecting on that situation, man. And I was just like, you know what? That had nothing to do with me or Robert Johnson. That had everything to do with him.
That's right.
His state of being at that time, because he didn't want anybody to press him that hard to open up his world. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm good with where I'm at, you know. And I was like, how can you call yourself a musician and then be content at where you at? Like, life is your inspiration. Get it from everywhere. Life is everywhere, you know.
That's right. You know? And that's definitely the excuse that they use to you know, to talk some of the stuff that they talk too. So I know that was a long-winded, but yeah. So did you have a question for me, King? Oh, I think I'm frozen.